Welcome to the Darren Well podcast with Rita Mercer.
Yeah, everything in life, and this is part of us being a human being, everything in life is going to hurt. Do you get to choose how you hurt and how you prepare for it? And that's the intentional personal mastery part of things.
Hello, my dear. Welcome back to the Darren Well podcast. So as we listen to today's episode, I want you to think about, what if success did not have to cost you your peace? What if clarity around your true purpose could really accelerate your growth without all the burnout? So my guest today is Stephen McConnell. He's here to help us explore how to redefine success, how to align with our true self, and how to learn to take intentional action for personal and professional growth. He's the CEO and the founder of the Growth Mindset Initiative. He's a speaker, he's a writer, he's a neuro-linguistic programming certified coach, and he's a personal mastery and leadership coach. He's got 30 years in the field, in the corporate world, and 20 of those years in manufacturing. He's the author of a new book that's going to be released this summer, The 7 Laws of Personal Mastery. So he's going to talk about that today in our conversation. His work centers on helping people achieve clarity through finding their true purpose to accelerate strategic growth without all the burnout. So I'm excited for Stephen to share more about ways to create new metrics for success, new ways that we can create systems that make sense for us individually, how to achieve clarity, and how to align with our true self, with purpose, with confidence, and intentional action without all the burnout. So again, thank you. Welcome to the Darren Well podcast. Welcome, Stephen. I'm excited for you to share about the book, and I'm excited for you to share ways that we can kind of grow. So tell us a little bit about what is neuro-linguistic programming, and then let's jump into our talk today.
Thank you, Rita. It's an honor to be here. And neuro-linguistic programming, if you were to go into yourself and break down, let's just say a memory, a simple memory, how is that memory wired within your brain, within your neurological, your nervous system? It starts with emotions, and then it's filtered through beliefs. And that's really where neuro-linguistic programming is how we have learned to program ourselves within our life, within our reality. So neuro-linguistic programming, how I use it is usually building the system, because I have a manufacturing background, for Lean Six and all of those SOPs and ways to systematize the world, and taking that emotional, that belief system, the reticulating activating system, and bridging the two. But think about it, January 1st, did you make a resolution? If you did you stick with it to this point? The reason I bring that up is basic goals, Lean Six, achievements, all of that is on the logical side of our existence in our brain. That's the prefrontal cortex. We have to believe that we're going to achieve. We have to believe that we are that future version of ourselves. So if for health reasons, I'm going to lose 5 pounds, and by February 1st, you didn't achieve it, you didn't make it, and you said, I don't need to do that. It's because neuro-linguistically, the identity wasn't there. And that's what I aim to bridge through, being an author, through being a personal mastery coach, is bringing the identity and the emotional systems of us as human beings together with reality and the logical systems that we've already built. There's so many successful systems out there, but bridging the two is what will bring each individual into their own empowerment.
That's cool. That's cool. Thank you for breaking that down. It kind of leans into our why. So I love for guests to share their why as to why they do the work that they do, what inspires them. And so talk a little bit about your North Stars. Talk about, so when we think about professional growth, many times people can't see how to get from A to Z, how to get from A to J, like just middle of the road, because they're stuck in the messy middle. And like, how do they get there? And so I love for guests to be vulnerable, just share pieces of their why, how they got there, their journey. So talk about your North Star, what got you to encountering the limiting beliefs, like what got you to that point?
Okay, so going back, right? I had learned, well, I hadn't learned. I was coping with alcoholism. I was going through these loops when whether I didn't necessarily hit rock bottom, but there was this slow self-awareness of that my health was deteriorating. As I sobered up, I then had to go through another phase where I take care of the emotions because I was suppressing emotional side of me with alcohol. That made me start to become self-aware of what is my purpose? How am I go? Is this all that there is to life? That in and of itself made me realize that as a child, on through, I loved being a person of service. That was where I wanted to go. I saw it throughout my life, whether some people even called me arrogant because all I wanted to do was take care of somebody. Listen, I see this and we need to fix it this way. And they're like, well, how arrogant are you? They didn't, they were affronted because of the attempt to assist. So trying to bridge that, my North Star, the big, powerful North Star for me is to solve poverty in the world. That is the meaningful journey. I say journey because it is a journey. That there isn't this, it's purposely out of reach. It's purposely so far in the sky that I walk in that direction in alignment, knowing that the journey is going to take me to better places while I'm impacting and empowering others. So the purpose is to be of service. Growth Mindset Initiative, my business that I've built, is developed so that I begin to address that through the poverty mindset. And if you think of that's not something that's in your mind, think of a time where you've overthought or you refused to make a choice and it was a choice that would benefit you, or even if maybe you're struggling with some sort of addiction, whether it's just scrolling on your phone or whatever, those over time are that choice of not going on the journey.
Yeah, yeah. And so going through those stages of following your heart, just a servant's heart is what I hear. I hear servant's heart. And so following your purpose and even finding yourself in the roles of being a fixer. How did you learn to navigate that?
Oh, the roles of a fixer. Well, there's as I touched on just previously is that at first I just jump in and push my way in and impose myself. And I was, some good friends or some leaders or some mentors would pull me aside and be like, that's very arrogant. They didn't want to hear a lot of the solutions or didn't even recognize that there was a problem. So in that way, I began to burn myself out. I was overthinking and then holding myself back as far as trying to fix or over fixing another solution I knew I could fix. That built those it didn't build, I already had the cognitive loops to overthink, to ruminate, to do all of that. And then learning to become a neuro-linguistic programming coach, learning to see self-awareness wise, see these symptoms and begin to have the curiosity to say, why, where is it triggered from? What emotions are there? How am I going to build a structure forwards? Now I am still the fixer, but I aim to fix internally first so that I can walk the path that people are stopping and saying, how can I have that? And in that way, the fixer is still there, but it's in a healthier, I like to call it routine than it is a habit or
Mm,
a going into the world and pushing my way.
yeah, yeah. I love that. I love that, Stephen. So thinking about ways that we can, especially for like the high achievers, the professionals that are always on, they're always being the fixer. So you get good at something, but you get so good that you don't have the balance. I know that you've learned balance and you've also created this system, hence the book as well. But talk about like what are ways that leaders, business professionals, high achievers, how can they find ways when they find themselves doing what they're great at, but also do it with balance, do it so they're not always on, doing it so they're not always putting all this pressure on themselves and burning themselves out? Like, what are some ways? So you said awareness. What are some other ways? Getting curious. What are some other ways that leaders can and professionals can find ways out of that?
Yeah, awareness is the very, very first part of that. And other ways is you have a mentor of or not a mentorship or have a community around you. I honestly like to have a community, recommend a community around you that is one step above you. And they see, they've gone through, they're like, and then listen to what they're saying. Often I'll speak to Toastmasters. 2 years ago, I joined Toastmasters. And I never thought myself to be a speaker. I just wanted to go there so that I could hold workshops, so that I could impact people. These mentors within the club were just way above me, but they all put their arms around me, raising me up. And in the process of that, we're all at our different levels. We also raise ourselves up and we raise them up. And I didn't realize that, like, here I am, this insignificant person, joined a club. But then I hear time and time again, one of my mentors come to me and be like, that was so valuable. You touched my heart. You've improved my life. And so going back to the self-awareness part, there's a system that I talk about in my book, Seven Laws, is the hold system. The hold system is the habits that we talk about. So it's HOLDS. We talk about the hold system is habits, becoming aware of your habits, understanding what they're doing. And a lot of times when we talk about becoming aware of our habits, it is first and foremost seeing how you react or seeing how the other person is reacting to you.
Mm,
Then having that curiosity. Curiosity is a huge benefit to self-awareness. Once you start to see that and you start to have a curiosity, well, why did they do that? That's when you start to look inside and say, well, why did I react this way? What was the trigger? Where am I at? That's a self-awareness builder right there. But we go,
understanding your habits.
yeah. And then when
Okay.
we go into it, we also go into the outlook. That's the O in the holds system. The outlook is then, as you're going in through this, what's my outlook? How am I thinking of the world? There was an author of a book, and I'm not remembering the book or the author, and I apologize for not giving them their due flowers. But they talk about that there are different characters out there, and we all can be these characters. You could be the victim, you could be the villain, you could be the sage, you could be the hero, or you could be the neutral person. And the neutral person, things just happen to you. and you don't even, you react maybe, but you don't react in a way. Villain, well, I'll just use the quote, hurt people hurt people.
True.
And so if you look at somebody that seems to be a thorn in your side for today, think of them and how are they hurting you? Because that's where it stems from. You're the victim, everything is there. It's a filtration system in their systems to where something is always happening to them. There's no ownership. It's always the world against me.
So external system of control.
Right. And then the hero is learning ownership and learning to take control, learning to build and grow. The sage or the guide, they are on the other side of that hero. They've been the hero. They've been all of them. They probably are still all of them, but in this particular sense, they're able to stop and pull other people forwards. They're guiding them.
Mm.
So back to the hold system, you have the habits, the outlook. What is your outlook? What are you filtering this reality with? For me, past life, when I was an alcoholic, the outlook was the world is happening to me. And quite often it would trigger my anger, which then I become the villain. And so it's very reactive and not responsive. In that, there's the next level, which is language. Language, what are you speaking to yourself? And also, how are you speaking? And once again, self-awareness wise, if you sit there and have a conversation and then stop and think about, well, why did I say this? Why did I say that? How you're starting to show symptoms of how you are coming out into the world. And internally, there's reasons for that. So that builds self-awareness. The next one is D, decisions. Same thing with language as decisions. Why did I decide this? Very curiosity. I did this thing. Why did I do this thing? Was it aligned with my purpose? Was it aligned with who I am? And decisions are also things internally that you've decided, no, I'm not going to do that. No, there's this great opportunity. No, I'm not going to do that. Or, yes, I'm going to do this. I'm so excited. And reframing anxiousness and stress into excitement. Those are all learned skills there. So then S
So
is
pause
state.
1 second, Stephen. How do you reframe pain, anxiety into, how did you say that?
Yeah, anxiety or stress into excitement.
How do you do that? What does that look like?
Well, first and foremost, a lot of our emotions are the same. So if you think of it as a spectrum, it's not necessarily, I would love to draw a straight line and say it's beautiful and there it is. This is anxiety and this is excitement. It's not that case. It's very three-dimensional. Our emotions are three-dimensional. But the best way I could tell you is, Rita, for a second there, I want you to just take a moment and think of a moment where you were feeling anxious and stressful. All right. Now, drop that, throw that aside, go to a moment where you're just absolutely excited for life. Now realize that those two emotions are the same, and that excitement you bring into, this is neuro-linguistic programming, bring it into that moment where you were anxious and stressed. And then, what's the language around that? The language around that, why would you be excited instead of anxious and stressed? Now, so what we're hearing here is you're taking the prefrontal cortex, the logical side of our brain, we're pulling our emotions out and going, I can connect this here and here, and then putting them back into emotions and saying, I am nervous for being on this podcast. Wait, exciting time in my life. I'm excited to be on this podcast. And then in this way, we begin to build the emotional intelligence and understand our feelings, understand our triggers, and grow from there. This is this is a system that we all can do, a skill that we can all do, where it starts with the small things. And you slowly practice and build the skill and practice it and practice it. Just think about Michael Jordan. If he never practiced, would he have been as great as he is? Same skill. Let's go into emotions. If we don't practice there, we're not going to build the skills there.
Thus the confidence.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's
So you can have the emotions at the same time, the anxiety and the excitement at the same time is what I'm hearing.
Absolutely. It's the same thing. So what is a lot of way I think of things, emotions are fleeting. They're a moment. If you think of something that's you don't want to do, either you have anxiety and stress for the 5 to 10 minutes right before doing it, or you've associated a label to the action itself. That's mundane, that's boring, that's once you understand where that level of anxiety is, then you can tell yourself, well, this mundane task that I'm so bored to do brings me better clients in so that I can help them. Well, all of a sudden, it's no longer mundane. It's something that you need to repetitively, consistently do to move your passion forwards.
That's good. That's good. So it allows us to look at the anxiety and the excitement without shame, especially the
Correct.
anxiety piece, because I think that's where the shame comes in. It's like, I'm not good enough. I suck at this. And it's like, whatever the belief systems are surrounding that, like, you've got to challenge those. Okay. Thank you for breaking that down. Thank you for breaking that down. Let's see. I think we finished up language. So did we do decisions? Okay.
Decisions and then space. Okay. And one thing you mentioned, and I love it, I want to just highlight that for your listeners. Shame, guilt, those are belief systems. Those are filters how we see the world. And I love how you said it. I just wanted to highlight that. I wanted to pay that forwards because it's a beautiful thing that you had said. So yeah, back to decisions. Decisions are exactly the same thing. Our reticulating activating system is part of our brain. I referenced it earlier. If you don't know what that is, imagine going out and buying the car of your dreams. And now you're driving down the road and all you see is the car of your dreams. Everybody else is driving. Your brain has learned your nervous system has learned to filter out anything and everything that's only important to you. And if it's not intentional, it's subconscious. And the subconscious features things for your safety, your security. Therefore, when we say reticulating activating system, it's a filtration system. Otherwise, I don't remember how many billion data points that our brain receives. And without this filtration system, we're not able to function. We just over-receive everything. You can teach and train your reticulating activating system to go out, go forth, and see the world as a filter purposely so that you're intentional within it. And this is where decisions are. And I think I went too deep on the decisions part, but that's really what that is the decisions is how you're filtering, and you can see the external, how you're reacting or responding in the world. And it's also internally what you're choosing not to put out in the world. For me, for many years, alcohol addiction, all of that, I chose to repress who I was because I felt that it was broken, because I felt that it was wired wrong, because that I felt that, and through the sobering process, through going through the different phases of working on my health, working on my emotions, working on my spiritual side, I realized that we are all here for a purpose. The decisions have to align with my purpose. And then there's space. Space is internal. Do you give yourself space to think, process, reflect? How do you treat yourself in your home, which is your heart, your body? It's also external, and I'd already touched a little bit upon that, the community that you surround yourself with. Do they drag you down every time you start to raise up? Do they raise you up every time you start to drag down? Those are very important things. See about who's around you right now. And if this is the first time you've ever heard of this concept, watch them. Watch them. They are around you because like people like to be around like people. And so if they are pulling you down for one reason or another, that means that you're pulling yourself down for one reason or another. So that's the hold system.
Say that last part again. If you're around like-minded people, they're either pulling you up or pulling you down. Say that again.
Well, our community, the community that we've built around ourselves, whether it's conscious, intentional, or subconscious, we tend to be around the people that we are alike. Like people are alike people. And so if you watch them and you see how they are and how they're treating the waitress. We've heard that expression so many times. I watch somebody and how they treat the janitor or how they treat the waitress, and then I judge them. Well, same concept. The people around you, how do they treat others around you? And in that way, either they're raising you up or holding you down. It starts internally. Are you raising yourself up or holding you down?
That's powerful. So based on the space, like the space that you are sharing with your people, personally, professionally, absolutely. So talking about fixed mindset, growth mindset, and the limit is not the ceiling, it's you and your belief
Precisely.
systems. And if you choose to stay there or you choose to do something different, and everything, I think as we think about our conversation today, Stephen, everything comes at a cost. You can choose to be a functional alcoholic, or you can choose to do something different because it's going to cost you something either way. And it's like, what are you wanting to do to grow? Do you
Precisely.
want it
Beautiful.
bad enough?
Beautiful. Yeah, everything in life, and this is part of us being a human being, everything in life is going to hurt. Do you get to choose how you hurt and how you prepare for it? And that's the intentional personal mastery part of things.
That's powerful. And that's the work that you do.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, as we wrap up, what are some words of wisdom that you want to impart to listeners today as they're thinking about this trajectory of their professional growth, their personal growth, and just wanting to be better?
Well, they've heard the hold system. I would also simply say that this comes from Roy Disney. And part of my fascination with Roy Disney is Walt Disney, the team dynamics between the two. Think of also Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. There's the visionary and there's the integrator. And I love those team dynamics. I love helping corporations put those team dynamics together. But Roy Disney had said something that the more you sit and think about it, the deeper you get on it, is when your values are clear to you, making decisions becomes easier. And I love that quote so much that that's part of the book that I write. That's part of the work that I do with clients is core values. What are your core values? That's your foundation. That's between who you are and your beliefs. And so what are the values? Once you know your values, you're clear on those values, decisions become so much easier.
Values about your family life, values about your spiritual life, that values about your space that you create, your community. Yeah, values are what grounds us, and also values are what shape us, that
Yeah.
teach us, that guide us. Absolutely. Absolutely. Great words of wisdom. I love that. So, Stephen, as we wrap up today, I've enjoyed our conversation of just learning to be just true to ourselves. I think that's one of the takeaways that I'm having today is learning to be true to ourselves, learning to just be curious, all the different ways that we can grow and just create systems that make sense for us. Absolutely. So, what are ways that you best serve clients? So, is it organizations that you best serve? Is it one on one? Is it small teams? Like, what are ways that you best serve, and how can people connect with you? And how share more about the book, when it's going to be released, and what are some goodies that could be expected in the book?
I love one-on-ones. I know that that's not sustainable always. However, I also going into a corporation and just doing workshops and building. I had one corporation where their culture was very political. And they're like, we've got to change this. We know that the world is changing around us. The younger generation prefers different values. I loved the fact that they were humble about it. Politicalness and they didn't want to hear it at first, but politicalness in a corporation culture is straightforward. All the different people in a manipulative phase. You have the, people who kiss up, all of that, and they're all trying to get their own way. I loved the transformation that they had as they began to realize the way to build a team dynamic. So I love those corporate workshops, working with people who really care to change and move forwards. Where to reach me is mindsetgrowth.com, and that's MYNDSET growth.com. I spelled it that way because you have to have an ownership on your own mindset and growth. So it's my mindset growth. The book, Seven Laws of Personal Mastery. Well, the Hold system is part of the self-awareness chapter within it. Each chapter has their own system that brings the emotional, personal, neuro-linguistic programming, the emotional identity that we have, into a standard operating system for ourselves. It helps bridge the two because, like I said before, as you have goals in life, logically it sounds great. Emotionally, we reject them or identify with them. That is where this book comes from, is it's bridging those through 7 laws, each part of your life, who you are, your emotional side of things, and then bringing it into habit forming in through the routinization, so it saves you time because your brain naturally wants to save time and energy. So that's what you look forward to in the book, is 7 Laws of Personal Mastery. And if you want to, if you're not certain about it and you want to talk to me further, I'm on LinkedIn. Reach out to me.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing. So, and as soon as the book is going to be released, I'll include the link in the show notes. So definitely share that with me as well, Stephen. But yeah, I'm so excited for listeners to hear this episode. I'm excited for them to go deeper in their growth personally and professionally, and also finding ways to just be true and authentic so they can not lean into burnout. And so I love that. Thank you so much, Stephen.
Rita, it's been an honor. Thank you very much. I love this conversation. Also, if I could, the work that I do, think of it in this way. It took me 10, 16, well, not including the addictive part, it took me 16 years to get here. And as I help clients, I get them through a lot of this in a year or so. I mean, it's not easy work. It's deep work. And in this way, that's what we bring as coaches to the world, is the systems of apprenticeship to guide and empower themselves. But this has been an honor. I love this conversation. I'd like to have it again.
Yay. I would love to have you as a guest again. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you for that in extending the opportunity to connect with you again. I definitely would love that. And so, yeah, because I think we were just scratching the surface, and especially when the book comes out, it'll be another great opportunity to share more about the book. But yeah, I would love to have you back as a guest, Stephen. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Well, awesome. Well, thank you everyone for joining in, Darren Well, the community. It's been an awesome opportunity just to hear more about Stephen's story and then learning more about ways, again, to grow. And so that's it. That's it for today's episode. Thanks for stopping by. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe wherever you hear this episode. Wishing you a fabulous day, my dear. Until next time, keep living, keep loving, and keep daring well. Take care, guys. God bless. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of the Daring Well podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode and want to continue exploring the world of holistic wellness, be sure to subscribe to the Daring Well podcast so you never miss an episode filled with transformative conversations and actionable advice. Thank you again for being part of the Daring Well podcast community. Together, let's dare to live well in mind, body, and spirit.